Hello, Sarah of SEK Handmade here, and today I'm going to share with you a modified chain. Modified chains are just a fun little trick to have in your tool belt that can really be added to any project, whether it's called for or not. It's totally personal preference of the look that you want and how much you want symmetry in your project or uniformity in your stitches, I guess. These work best, the ones that I have found, with double crochets. So you can see my stitch pattern here with some double crochets. And if you look closely, this is a little hard to see on camera, but if you look closely, I did this one with just your regular chains, nothing special or different about that, and then my row of double crochets. And you can see when you look at that, it is not the same width or shape as my double crochets. It looks a little different, and in certain types of yarn, especially the using just the chains can appear really thin and lose some of the structure. So great for adding some structure too. If you look up here, I have done my modified chain, and you can see just how well that matches both the width and shape of my other double crochets. It makes the little perfectionist heart in me sing that it looks so similar, and it can really make a nice difference in your project. The two places that I have found it to make a really great difference, in my humble opinion, is when you've got big spaces like this. It can be really great to have that uniformity of all of the stitches on both sides. Or when you're working a solid piece of fabric and you notice that when you just work a chain on your the start of your row, that there's a gap between your chain and your first stitch. That's because, like I said down here, the chains just aren't the same shape and they aren't the same width as a regular double crochet. So sometimes that chain can leave you with a little hole between it and your first stitch. And since the modified chain here is the same width as your double crochets, it just makes for a really nice even texture. So I will say this takes a little practice. It can be a little finicky at first, and I want to encourage you. Great idea to just take some scrap yarn like I've done here and practice a few times, even practicing making a modified chain and a row of double crochets, and then doing like I've done, where you do a modified chain, a chain one, skip one, double crochet pattern, to just see what does it look like and what do you like better. And then you're not practicing this brand new technique on a giant cardigan that you're going to be sad if it looks, kind of funny. So always great to practice this. So once you hit the end of a row, you're going to just turn your work. You're not going to chain one. You're going to lift this first loop nice and high, and it needs to be lifted at least as high as the next row of double crochets you're going to make. And I find that my tip is lift it just a little bit higher. And again, this is a great thing to practice. Once you do it a few times, you just kind of get the feel of how tall it needs to be, or you can eyeball it. So lift that first loop nice and high. You're going to place your finger on that loop because you don't want it wiggling around your hook. So place your finger on there to hold it, keep it still. You're going to wrap under the loop, behind and around. And now you can see I have 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to insert my hook to that first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and now I have 3 loops. You got to keep holding on to that, or that loop will untwist and you'll end up with 2 loops. Yarn over again, pull through the first 2 loops, and now is the point where you can let go of that first loop. And I still have 2 loops on there. Yarn over, pull through 2, and that's modified chain that will look and feel like a double crochet. I'm going to do a row here real quick of my stitches and a row back because I want to show you what working into the top of that one looks like because it looks just a little different. All right, so I have reached the modified chain on the other side, and I think it looks just a little different than a double crochet. And so to find where you're going to insert your hook in that modified chain, I have found if you turn it just a little bit, right there is that V that you're going to insert your hook into. To me, it seems a little fluffier than the normal top of a stitch, and that's okay. It's going to look a little different, and you're just going to insert your hook there and then complete whatever stitch you were doing, which I was doing some single crochets, and that's it. That is how you work a modified chain. As I said, there are several types of modified chains. I will link in the description below to another modified chain video that I have that also works with double crochets. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that you enjoy playing with the modified chain and figuring out where you can best use it in patterns. Please be sure to check out the description below for written instructions, as well as, like I said, a link to my other modified chain video. There's also places to subscribe to my email list if you don't want to miss out on any SEK handmade information. I'd love it if you found this helpful. If you would like this video, subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications so that YouTube can let you know when I post something new, and share it with a friend who might find it helpful. Happy crafting!